It's the money
You ready?
Ready for us?
Do you join us?
We are.
Next. Good luck.
How you feeling?
Jack Mead.
Gentlemen, how are
Yes.
you?
Identify yourselves for the record.
Yes, for the record, please identify yourself.
Jack Mead, Register of Deeds, Barnstable County.
David Mead, I'm David Murphy, Assistant Registrar of Deeds.
Not a dog.
It's all right. Already that way.
Give it a couple.
David Murphy.
You're not supposed to be so obvious about your sucking up.
I thought it was
Breaking news!
Hey.
So, sometimes I'm sure you just sort of wish you run for Senate.
I was many years ago when I was watching C-SPAN one time, and Carol Mosley Brown won the Democratic primary in Illinois for
I
the.
remember that, yeah.
And my wife, it's like 2 in the morning. I'm watching C-SPAN, and it's an election night, and I'm like, "Honey," she's like, "What?" And I said, "The Register of Deeds in Cook County just became the U.S. Senator."
Well, you should have remembered that
And
lesson,
she's
Jack.
like, "That's lovely. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, that's right.
Go to sleep."
Perfect storms happen
Yeah.
everywhere.
I said, "Holy crap."
Yeah, so there you go. I'm
But
sure
anyway,
a lot of
yeah.
people are thinking that this morning.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was looking at that was not the happiest dais in the world that I was looking at when the Attorney General was giving her concession speech. So, hey,
Yeah.
elections matter, I guess. It's just
Yeah,
you're
they do.
looking and
Working hard matters.
Working
very hard.
Asking people for their vote matters.
it does.
Yes.
It
All
does.
of
He
it.
ran an unbelievably
Yeah, he
good
did a good job.
campaign,
He did a good job.
and I think Martha had a confluence of events. I mean, she didn't run the greatest campaign, obviously, on her end, but I think the Nelson buy-off, that kind of stuff. I think that just
Yeah.
kicked people off, and so that it wasn't her fault, but it just kind of happened that way, and I think that
In the
that
end,
really hurt her.
Nobody looked that great on either side. As far as
Well, the whole
where it went.
the whole
How it
thing
went.
is, the problem I think is, the president got in sort of hope and changey, and it's not materialized in the sense that there's still, it's politics. There's always going to be conflict, and I don't think people
Well, we're very
appreciate that
impatient.
there's going to be that conflict is part of it, but I don't know that he has reached out enough to give the impression that he's trying to be bipartisan about anything.
Well,
I
Obama
think
got
that-
elected again here because Scott has the same amount of daughters. He has the same background, state senator to senator. His mother was on welfare
Open
when he was
change
growing
on
up.
from his
Okay?
perspective.
And
I
it
don't
was
know,
all
yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
I think people see what Paul Kirk has seen in the Congress since he's been there, and he spoke very, how do I want to say, openly about it, which was in the editorial in
Yeah.
the Cape Cod Times the other day. And I think people are as appalled and angry about it as he is.
But they're also angry at the establishment. One part of that
What-
editorial I disagreed with
Yeah.
was the idea that there's a designated news source. Nobody trusts anybody anymore in terms
No,
of giving them the
that's
straight
right.
scoop. I mean, because
Yeah.
they haven't been getting the straight
No.
scoop.
And-
And there isn't an independent, or the Fourth Estate, I think, has failed in a great degree on the national level. And that's got people upset, and they have different avenues to look and get information that they're not getting from the mainstream group. And so that part of it has hurt. I think it's hurt my analysis of the Democrat, it hurt them because all they've been getting is the same feedback from the same sources,
Right.
and they haven't been. That's why candidates who run nationally from states that are pretty even tend to do better than the ones that come out of a state that they've never really heard the cognitive dissonance from, going out, and all of a sudden they run into.
Right.
And I think that's a little
I
bit
think
with
it's a
Coakley.
great-
I mean,
it's a
she
good-
had
it's a
never,
good wake
she
up
never
call.
run it and never had a sort of a campaign against her. She had never been used to the experience of having to run a hard campaign.
And
I
it was
mean,
a
it's been
short
layup,
window,
and
so
that's
it
tough.
was fast and furious.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize I brought it up because that's just all
No,
sidebar
It's just
stuff.
fun. That's what we do.
I know. We'll have to do it over lunch.
That's what we do. Anyway.
All right, so what are you going to tell us about your budget?
Well, we have level funded and across the board effectively reduced our payroll. aside from fringe benefits, we're down from a year ago, projected payroll. And, we're trying to, follow your requests in terms of level funding. I think we've done that.
I would say.
And, we're hopeful on the, revenue side that we can start to see some uptick here. Obviously, you guys are well aware of, how it's been going. I am, cautiously optimistic that we're going to start improving. December was a good month, but I
It
get,
looks like it's coming back, it's just not at the same level. I mean, the median house price is going down.
yeah, the median house. I mean, I'm not so worried about the median house price, to be honest with you. I think if the median house price comes down, it's a good sign.
Right,
That
me
means
too.
I think that that'll mean.
Reality.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of inventory out there that isn't moving, and there's still, I hate to say it, there's still a decent amount of a number of homes that are on the edge of that may be entering that foreclosure inventory market. Our foreclosure numbers seem to be ticking up a little bit the last couple months. So it's hard to say, and I think if rates stay low, we'll be okay. But if they go up, I think we got some serious concerns.
What about on the commercial side? What do you see there? Any change?
It's real flat, I think. Commercial property just isn't appreciating right now, and I think it's there is a lot of, from what I can see, a lot of space out there that's available. It's we don't break. It's hard for me to break it down from the direct numbers we get. I can I read the trade publications on them, and they break it down, and it just seems to be. There's activity there. There seems to be some decent, it's an opportunity, I think,
The higher end stuff.
Higher end stuff
Like the
seems to be more.
Seacrest, maybe, when that goes.
Well, the
through?
Seacrest, yeah, I mean, it appears that's going to happen. I'm trying to figure, we were talking about that yesterday, what we thought, the number would be. I was going to go and just check the assessors number in Falmouth. I hadn't done that. But my guess is, probably somewhere at $30 million. Does that sound about right? I don't know. I mean,
or more.
maybe more.
Well, they paid $40 million for.
When they bought it?
Yeah,
Oh, well then,
Yeah.
hey, maybe it's a big, I don't think it's not Chatham Bars. but
somewhere
it'll be-
between 40 and 100 million
Yeah,
is
potential.
what they propose.
Yeah, no, it could be. I mean, it's a great
Purchase or
spot.
sell.
I mean, I used to bust tables
Done
there when I was a
right,
kid,
yeah.
So that, I mean, but those deals always help. I mean, if you have one of those big deals, but I think as a general rule, from what I've been seeing, the commercial, we have seen some movement. I noticed downtown Hyannis, there seems to have been some turnover on a number of turnover in properties in North Street and things like that. I've seen that have come through in the last couple of months. In the 600,000 range or whatever. So I mean, those properties don't generate necessarily more revenue than a Seaview Avenue property, which is going for $4 million. So we're still seeing some high end stuff that's coming through. It's just, to me, I'm always been a volume guy. I like to see, if I see a level of activity in the market that's increasing, that tells me that people are confident about getting in there and that the machinery has been oiled enough that deals are happening, can happen that without too much difficulty. Right now, the deals they're too. It's pulling teeth to get deals done. I mean, everyone's nervous. Appraisers are terrified.
And everybody thinks there's still maybe a little bit more of a deal they could get.
Right,
And
right.
others
So-
are trying to recoup. Maybe there was a little bit more of I was going to reap some money from this.
Yeah,
So everybody's at a standstill of.
Right, and so it's I think a lot of, from what I've been hearing anecdotally, is that it just seems that it's tough to get appraisals in a lot of cases, just because there hasn't been enough activity in the last year or two. If they do come in, they don't come in, to make the mortgage number work. And it can be so every deal is very hard to do.
Right.
And I think some of that is a reaction to when every deal was so easy that it was like falling out of bed. It was just people walked in and said, I want to buy something, and, you know, the realtors didn't have to do any work. No, and it was just, the mortgage brokers just, you know, cut the paperwork and bango, you know, the deal happened. Well, now, it's not that world anymore, and so it's a lot of push and shove, and you know, so the buyers are testy, the sellers are testy. It's just, and nothing comes to fruition until it's done. You know, I mean, the financing is always on the question. You know, and if you're buying a deal, or you're selling a house, or you're buying a house, you got to make your financing contingent until the time of, you know, the day of the closing, basically, because you don't know if your bank's going to be around. You know?
Bill, you had a
I have a great belief in the variables that are present during different times in, you know, in an activity. When I had to do market forecasting for my product manager, one of the things I looked at was whether or not there was any cycle or any, let's say, or any confluence of variables at a particular time that were similar in terms of predicting ups or downs. And in this case, you know, for instrument transformers, it was a tie-in to if housing starts reach a certain level 2 years before, there was a direct correlation as to how many instrument transformers I would sell in the third year. So because, you know, it was like a ratio of like 3 housing starts to every commercial, you know, installation. And as we have hundreds of years of history, and you've got it all on the computer, I just wonder as to whether or not by examining some of the variables, like, you know, what were the upticks in, let's say, in the cost of mortgages in terms of the percentage, how much, you know, what was the volatility of the stock market, you know, those sorts of things that would say, okay, this is what happened when those things were present, and if you see those things present at any time, you know, I wonder if there's any way of putting a certain degree of confidence in that would be a predictor of future activity.
Some kind of algorithm.
If you knew that, you wouldn't be here.
No, yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. Once I figured that out,
I'd be selling credit default swaps.
So where is housing going to be this coming year? I mean, what do you think? Is it coming back? Is it not? Is it?
I think we're going to sort of bounce around at this level for a little while, another year, I'd say. You know, I can envision a pickup as the year goes on. I'd be interested. I'm curious as to see what's going to happen this spring. To me, that's important. If we start to see some decent numbers coming in March and April, then we're going to have a pretty good idea that we're moving in the right direction.
We have 100,000 dwelling units in the Cape. Okay. There's a certain amount of, how many of those over the last 20 years have traded or been sold on an average, let's say on an annual basis? Yeah, and to me, and how many new houses have been added on an average basis?
Yeah.
And between those two things, I think you get a figure of merit as to what you would expect, you know, going forward.
Well, I don't see us dipping down. You know, I think last year was bad, and the last 6 months have been, you know, from November a year ago.
Last November was
Last November, December. I mean, we were in a real, you know, trough. You know, there's no question. It started to come out of it as the summer, you know, came, and we slowly started to work our way back with these numbers. It seems like, you know, this December was pretty good. It was better than November. That doesn't always happen. So historically, so, you know, it tells me that clearly there's pent up demand. People still have to have a home. They still want to, you know, things want to happen. So I think the incentive out there is to get things, you know, people want to get involved and buy a home or whatever, sell, move up, move down, whatever the case may be. But it's going to take some time. It's going to have to work out.
Is it a prime home, like a retirement home, or is it a second home?
Well, I think in a lot of cases it's a second home. Our second home market to me is what we need to drive our sales here. Okay, and what I do anticipate is that we will start to see. I think you kind of almost have to look generationally in some cases in terms of the second home markets. There was that sort of big influx in the Cape in the 70s of people buying second homes, or even late pre-boomer folks who had bought in, 60s and 70s,
Right,
who,
exactly.
who made this place, and they always, and their kids, and so those folks are, are passing or getting
Those were those modest homes.
yeah, or even
Yeah.
the bigger ones, the big stuff on some stuff that was the old stuff that was on the water that you could pick up for short money
Nothing, right.
relatively back then, that all of a sudden have appreciated in the last 30 years like this. They've
Right.
gone up straight up, and the next generation is almost in their 50s and 60s, and they're not necessarily going to be buying that, but their parents are, they're dying or they're moving to Florida or whatever. They're bailing the kids. They had 5 kids. They can't buy that house now because it's worth $1 million.
Right.
And they've already established their lifestyle or whatever, and so but there are going to be turnovers in those properties, and so I mean I think that's. I think demographically it's a Cape-wide phenomenon, and we're going to see some turnover there in that area, that second home market, maybe more so than we have. And maybe I've exaggerated the trend. I'm using anecdotal evidence, but it
Well,
just
it
seems
is-
like
but
I look
I
at
think it's
neighborhoods
a-
that I'm familiar with where all of a sudden everyone's they have these big houses. They're in 70s and their 80s. Well, they're not going to live forever, and those houses are going to start turning over.
Well, when demographer Francis, remember the Francis
yeah,
study?
yeah,
What he was saying was that the people who have the second homes, who bought them as retirement homes, would be moving into them in a certain year. But that's not going to happen now
No.
because people are going to work longer.
right.
So they're either going to continue to keep them, or they're not, or they're going to sell them, one
Right.
or the other.
Right. To me, there's.
But they're not going to move down here right away
Yeah.
and become permanent residents.
Yeah, and as to Bill's point, there's always a level of turnover that happens regardless. I mean, we have an older population. There's this turnover from that, just from the people moving out, moving in, or whatever the case may be. It's just there is that stream that we constantly have. And, if you want to be from a strictly revenue point of view, whether they're coming or going, we get a piece of that action.
How about refinancing? How's that going?
Well, it's been a major uptick in refis from last year. So the
Uh-huh.
refinance activity has been going along. It seems to have slowed a bit in the last month or so.
Well, I helped with that. I just want you to know.
There you go. There you go. I refinanced
Yeah.
this year too. The rates were as low as we'd seen them in
Right.
forever. Now they've ticked back up slightly. I think I checked yesterday. They're 5.1, something like that. 1.25. I saw it kick 5. They were down to 4.78, I think,
Right.
at one point. And so those are great rates. I hate to, you guys, know. It was. That's the one thing that concerns me a little bit, though. I have to say that is the rates are as low as they are, and our activities is slow. If we do have an uptick in interest rates, I'm fearful about what that would do to the market in terms of that. It might put a real halt in activity. And that just because I don't necessarily see the prices of homes. It's an interesting conundrum. I don't know if the price of homes is going to inflate with it, or it may still stimulate things because the home prices can't go anywhere because the demand
Right.
is soft. But the financing end of things is going to get very difficult. As long as it's almost like you want the economy to heat up. At the same time, if it starts to heat up, you're probably going to see an increase in interest rates. So it's very.
So it's iffy.
It's iffy.
Very
Yeah,
iffy.
it's iffy. I don't see us taking in less income. I think our income is going to be pretty steady, if not improving. I don't know. Do you see that?
I think it's really tough to predict, to be honest with you, because we don't know what's going to happen from day to day,
Yeah.
especially with interest rates. And I think, we are a large second home market, so a lot of the other markets are being positively influenced by the home buyer credit. So I think some of the lower end properties might see some activity based on the first time home buyer credit, but that expires in the middle of the year.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I wondered. When was
Through
that
June.
extended
June.
to?
It's June, yeah.
So, I think, like Jack has pointed out, our real value in excise is on the higher end. It's on the second homes. It's on, so we're really dependent on the economy turning around so people have the confidence to go out and buy that vacation home that they've wanted to buy for a real long time, because there are deals out there. There definitely are deals out there. everywhere in the market. So
Are we seeing the
commercial.
effect of the transfer of wealth? Because, this is the baby boomers are now absorbing the wealth that was gained by the World War II generation.
Mhm.
Have we actually seen the impact of that? Because I think we're all anticipating it, but I don't know if we've really seen, the large transfer that, that potentially is there, that would indeed provide a real push into that market, because people need to put their money into something.
You mean inheritance?
Yeah.
Well, usually dividing it a lot of ways,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that generation had a lot
Still
of
had
kids. You know,
families.
they sort of had
It's
a
not
lot-
like
it
this.
wasn't-
It's
it
not
wasn't
like
the
when we go.
Yeah, it wasn't the two. It was the They'll get nothing.
Well,
Anyway, and like it.
The interesting thing, I think, is that you do have, impending wealth transfer. Is you've got situations where, I know my parents bought a home down here in the 60s, and there are a lot of similarly situated families that do have many children whose middle-class parents bought second homes in the 60s and into the 70s, and those homes have appreciated greatly in value. And what happens is some of them are on the water, some of them are worth $1 million. And when that property, when mom and dad, pass away and that property is up for sale, how many of the children can afford to buy their siblings out? I mean, I think, from a negative perspective, that might have a negative effect on the transfer value of the properties. Is
Right.
You might have a lot of properties coming on the market in the next 10, 15 years that are owned by that first generation of real second home owners in the 60s and the 70s. So you never really know. I mean, it's really tough to predict.
The estate tax expired. I don't know if that has any.
Yeah, I don't know what, what's the plan on checking out, in the next couple of months. I don't know how that's, I read an article the other day that the state guys say it's not really doing
Doesn't
a whole
have
lot
any
for you
effect.
right now. It's,
No.
and,
Not a lot. It
and it's
doesn't
just,
have a big
just going to cost you money later when you try to figure out what the new law is going to be, and you have to
Right.
rewrite all your stuff if you're in that situation, I think for most folks, it's really irrelevant.
It is
At the end of the
irrelevant.
day, it's not a
It's
whole
a
lot.
very few people
It
that have the
doesn't
impact.
impact a whole ton of folks.
Right.
But the business, as long established businesses that have built up from zero, that stuff is affected. No question. And transfers of that. So, but I hate to predict where that's going or what impact that would have on us. I think, to me, at the end of the day, the Cape is still a place that people like to come to and want to be a part of, and if they could, and if they would like to have a home here in the summertime, and it's they write songs about the place. It's a really place. It's a special place, and so I think we have that going for us in terms of real estate, and it's so I'm always looking at the half full thing from that perspective, and that if push comes to shove, people are going to want to be here as opposed to sort of some self-created place in the middle of nowhere, and so we have that advantage, and so we're going to be better off, chances are, than a lot of other places.
So where do we stand in terms of our excise tax revenue as of December 31st in terms of our budgeted projections, would you say? About even?
No, we're a little bit behind.
Oh, behind.
We've collected about 45% about what we should. We budgeted 7.5. We've collected 3.3, more or less. So we're a little bit
7.5.
behind. Actually, for next year, though, I've actually cut down on our assumptions on the deeds tax.
So
I've
when you
brought that
say
down.
7.5 to 4.5, 7.5 of what?
$7.5 million is what we
Oh,
projected.
$7.5 million.
$1 million, right?
And
For
we've
for
got-
the first 6 months.
no, for the year.
Total for the
For the
year,
year.
of
Yeah.
which we've collected about 3.3.
Yeah.
Oh, 3.3
Yeah.
in 6 months.
So we're a little bit behind.
So
So
we're
we'll be
behind.
behind that,
Still,
but
yeah.
A caveat to that is that generally some of our power months really can be those months leading right up to summer,
Summer.
March, April,
Yeah.
May. So
The other side of that, though, is also on the business revenue. We projected 2.75, and we've collected a little bit more than that. We're a little bit ahead of that. We've collected 1.4, so it collected a little bit more.
yeah, we're busier than we were a year ago in terms of just
Fees.
our day-to-day business.
Yeah.
The number of documents coming over the counter is
Right.
greater than it was a year ago,
Mhm.
about 5-6%.
But their value
I'd
is
say.
Yeah.
less.
But
Yeah,
the,
but-
the sales are, I mean, the real money's in the sales, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Strictly from an income basis, we get, a mortgage, we get $25 on, and a deed, we get, you could get a couple thousand.
Right.
So, same amount of work for us, but it's, in either case,
Varies.
but the fee is significantly changed, the income from that. So, but I mean, the second half, I mean, aside from I mean, the second half of the year tends to be a little better. I mean, it's about pretty close to being split. I'm hopeful, that the things will improve going in. Tough part from a budgeting perspective is, May and June tend to be our best months, and you're trying to make that call at the
Right.
same time you're
Exactly.
Doing your budget.
doing your budget, and it's so it can get tricky. And I understand, why you want to delay it as close to the edge as you can. It makes sense.
Well, I'm being a little more conservative, though. I did send you guys the both revenue and expense
Yeah, I
piece
did.
that we can
Yeah.
talk about, and I'm being more conservative on the deeds piece for next year. We'll have some room to play with, I think, on some other savings. And also next year on the business revenue, I'm actually matching the estimate of business revenue to your budget number.
Okay.
So that it's a wash.
Yeah.
This year was actually the first year that we projected business revenue didn't
Little less.
quite cover your
Didn't quite
budget.
cover the- yeah,
That was
yeah.
the first time ever.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I've
can
been sick
remember.
for like 3
Yeah.
or 4 days.
Just a FYI too, we are going into a contract year with our guys. At the end of as of July 1 will be a new one for. We did a holdover. It actually
Did an
expired a year ago.
extension,
We did
yeah.
a 1-year extension this year. So
And it was, I have to give them credit because they did understand that extension was, they weren't going to get any steps or a COLA, so they were very good about it.
Yeah.
Both our facilities union and the registry union
yeah.
were.
So I don't know whether we how we want to
So we will
approach
talk
it
about
for
that
going
as
forward,
we're going,
but
yeah.
just letting you know
Good.
that's on the
Thank you.
horizon. And
And a lot of people at their max.
yes, I think so. Yeah, that
About everybody.
doesn't, it is what it is. But
Well, one other point to make and to consider is in the last 10 years, we've taken a staff that was approximately 43 bodies, 43 people back in 1999, 2000, and through retirement, as we, talking about the maxing, we've had, a number of retirements and people leaving over that period of time. So going into fiscal year 2011, our staff is going to be approximately 34 people.
Wow.
We've retained the positions in name only at this point. We haven't funded them, but
Right.
As our volume has decreased, we haven't seen the need to bring people in, and we've tried to do things more effectively with fewer people. And that has enabled us really to keep our budget under control over
Yeah.
that period of time.
and
So-
I'm hopeful going forward, statewide, the registers are trying to put together and get through the secretary's office a statewide CMR for electronic recording standards
That'd be great.
that we can, once those are adopted, I think most of us will feel comfortable accepting documents that way once we have an official standard to determine as opposed to an ad hoc standard that some guys are going with. And I'm not comfortable with that. But within the next, hopefully that will come through and that will be another level where we may be able to see some significant decent savings going forward. And so I'm optimistic on that end. But, we can reduce, we get more productivity out of our guys, so that if and when we do start to see that expansion in business, and I'm hopeful that we do see
Right.
that going forward, we will be able to absorb that through this, technological improvement in productivity
Right.
that allow significant productivity.
Right, and you'll
gains,
only have to bring someone on when you really have.
Yeah, I mean, it's
coming up to that.
it's no secret.
And that's a good thing
Personnel's
if you
where the
have- if you
where
get
the
to that
money is,
point.
and that's
Bring
if you
it.
can keep that under control, then all should be good. So,
Right.
so anyway, I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get that right, and going forward, things will work out from that aspect. So I mean, I'm just worried. You get that big surge, and all of a sudden you start, you don't want to hire to.
Exactly, you're not sure if it's a fluke.
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
trend,
and
it's a trend.
it's, once you hire, it's hard,
Yeah, that's right.
It's not like it's a temporary position, so you gotta be smart about that.
I have one question on your budget.
Sure.
You, on the internet and on the software, there's no funding. Is that because you accomplished what you needed to do this year and you don't need the funding for next year?
The internet funding,
That's-
the $500 that I had set aside was, we had old internet accounts that, while John Morrison, the IT department, has done a great job of integrating everyone together, that was put into place, that was put there just in case we needed funding to make things work for us as we were integrating. We didn't need that funding going forward, that $500, right?
Well, there's the
Yeah.
5,000.
Yep, the 5,000. 5,000 software, hardware maintenance. We ended up buying out some equipment that no longer requires that budget line item.
That's what I figured. It was
Yeah.
something you accomplished.
We also, I mean,
We also held over.
well, generally, what we've had a larger, our budget was significantly larger for hardware and equipment because we have an IBM system that we regularly, every 3 to 4 years, we upgrade, and we're carrying a lease payment. Realizing what the financial situation was going to be going forward for a few years, we put off an upgrade, and I bought out at the end of last fiscal year with some money that we had left over in our budget. We were able to work something out with IBM and purchase 3 years worth of maintenance on our present machine. Not something that we would like to do because you want to make sure that your equipment is the most reliable part. One of the most reliable parts of your operation. We can't run without it. So
Right.
we kind of, with the market in mind, we took steps to kind of minimize what our cost was going to be for the next few years, have a fixed cost, and something that we're going to have to revisit maybe in fiscal year 2012.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
Just, we can kick the can down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, there's no registry takeover talk anywhere floating around. is
I
there?
haven't heard it. The only, if that happens, it would be a result of, in my mind, it would be a result of failures of other counties. It would, if,
Domino.
Domino, if all of a sudden, and I don't mean to impugn any counties out there, but some of the ones that haven't been taken, are independent counties that, Plymouth or Norfolk or whatever, if they got in such fiscal straits that they'd end up getting a state takeover, then there may be momentum to sort of just say, let's
Right.
take it all instead of having
Right.
just Barnstable or the Vineyard or something, and Nantucket.
But they're
being
behaving
kind of-
themselves so far.
So far, so good, I think, and I don't think the state's anxious to do that. I mean, to be
Okay.
honest with you, they don't want to. They're just absorbing the sheriffs, and I
Right,
don't think they need
yeah.
any more, of that if they can help it. So, well, then, knock on wood. those
Do you
guys
work
can-
with other assessors? I mean, do you regularly meet, talk about these things? I mean, like just
Yeah,
say
we
where
have.
you at?
We try to keep, especially the county guys.
Right, that's what I mean.
Like to talk to each other. To try to, make
Share
sure,
pain and-
it's just make sure we're all on the same, same page in terms of. I mean, I think I'll be honest with you. The state guys are, say, hey, stay where you are.
Right, yeah.
They're like, you guys, it's good, and
And that's
I don't
what-
question that at all. I agree with them 100%. But there is, I think there is the concern. I think that everyone, we're fortunate, I guess, in the sense from a operational point of view, is we have an excise tax that allows us to function. Other
It
counties
keeps
don't
those
have.
local taxes local.
It does, and it keeps the money in the case. Otherwise, we'd just be going
If you go to
uptown.
the
Yeah.
state and you get 10 cents
Right.
or
So
less
I
to the
mean,
door.
from that perspective, we're in an enviable position relative to some of these other counties that don't have that. And as the fee, everyone hears the fees have gone up, but the counties didn't get any money out of that fee increase.
Right.
So
Say that
it's
louder.
different.
And
Yeah.
houses didn't really stop selling.
No, and the work didn't stop either. So
Yeah.
it's so when they raised those fees, that all went uptown, people. It didn't
That's right.
didn't stay.
And that means to Boston.
Right.
And out of our control.
Exactly. So so anyway, we keep in touch, and try to be on the same page, and keep an eye on the State House. I mean, hey, this is happening. We try to throw a monkey wrench if we have to, or
Right.
or save our bacon if it. I mean,
That's
there
good.
are efforts to,
Yeah, that's what
there
you-
are efforts sometimes to take it out of you at the back door, and we try to stop
Mhm.
that. So far we've been successful, and thanks to we have people who have county interests in mind. Sheila Murray some Norfolk guys who are in the on the House level that that are cognizant of the issues that are facing counties, and I give them credit because they stand up a lot of the time. So we have to give them credit for that.
Good.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have the Cape delegation. All
Excellent
all of
group,
them.
and I think the county, I think all the reps that are in those counties are very cognizant of the issues that the counties are facing, and they're pretty good about protecting, at least keeping apprised of the interests of the counties going
Right.
forward. So I found that anyway talking to these folks. So
Great.
it worked out well.
All right, any other?
All right.
Good, thank you very much.
Always a
Good
pleasure.
Thank you,
information.
yes.
Yeah.
Then we'll have
Not
that
doom
last
and
one.
gloom,
We'll
yeah.
Analyze, yeah.
There you go.
Analyze
There you go.
that.
All right.
All right, take care.
So we don't have anybody coming in until 1.
That's right.
Right,
Do you want me to see if Bill is available?
yeah. Well, we have the assembly at 4 anyway.
We have a 1 and a 2. We have the Human Rights Commission coming in at 2 o'clock, and they are bringing a bunch of people because I wanted to move everything up, but they
Yeah.
couldn't arrange.
Well, you had a few things.
I do have a couple other things, yeah.
But we do, what is on the assembly's docket for today? Do you have
No,
any
it's
idea?
honestly-
It's no big- I mean,
I don't think anything. I haven't seen their agenda, but
Okay.
I think it's
All right.
good to be invited.
it's going back to you talked about the wastewater. We are
I'm sorry,
trying to-
before you get started,
Oh,
can I do a tape change before you?
Do you want to actually take a 5-minute?
Let's take a 5-minute.
Okay.
So I can